Seoul, South Korea, AP, a jetliner skidded off a runway, slammed into a concrete fence and burst into flames. Sunday in South Korea, after its landing gear apparently failed to deploy, all but 2 of the 181 people aboard were killed in one of the country's worst aviation disasters, officials said. The Boeing 737-800, operated by Jeju Air, plane arrived from Bangkok and crashed while attempting to land in the town of Muan, about 290 kilometers, 180 miles, south of Seoul. Footage of the crash aired by South Korean television showed the plane skidding across the airstrip at high speed, evidently with its landing gear still closed and slamming into the wall, triggering an explosion and generating plumes of thick black smoke. The crash killed 179 people, the South Korean fire agency said. Emergency workers pulled 2 crew members to safety. They were conscious and did not appear to have any life-threatening injuries, health officials said. The chief of the Muan fire station, Lee Jong-hyun, told a televised briefing that the plane was completely destroyed, with only the tail assembly still recognizable in the wreckage. Officials were investigating the cause of the crash, including whether the aircraft was struck by birds, Lee said. The control tower issued a warning about birds to the plane shortly before it intended to land and gave the crew permission to land in a different area. Transport Ministry officials said. The crew sent out a distress signal shortly before the crash, officials said. Investigators retrieved the jet's flight data and cockpit voice recorders, said Senior Transport Ministry official Ju Jong-won. He said it may take months to complete the probe into the crash. The runway will be closed until January 1, the ministry said. Video of the crash indicated that the pilots did not deploy flaps or slats to slow the aircraft, suggesting a possible hydraulic failure, and they did not manually lower the landing gear, suggesting they did not have time, said John Cox, a retired airline pilot and CEO of Safety Operating Systems in St. Petersburg, Florida. Despite that, the jetliner was under control and traveling in a straight line, and damage and injuries likely would have been minimized, if not for a barrier being so close to the runway, Cox said. It's all in one piece. Everything is coming along fine until it hits that wall, at which point it disintegrates into a catastrophe, he said. Another aviation expert said videos showed the aircraft had used up much of the runway before touching down. With little braking ability, the aircraft skidded atop its engine cowlings, said Ross Rusty Amer, CEO of Aero Consulting Experts. It's basically like skidding on ice, he said. The Boeing 737-800 is a proven airplane that belongs to a different class of aircraft than the Boeing 737 MAX jetliner that was linked to fatal crashes in 2018 and 2019, added Alan Price, a former chief pilot at Delta Airlines and now a consultant. More than 4,500 of the planes are in service around the world, according to the aviation analytics company Cirium. One of the survivors was being treated for fractures to his ribs, shoulder blade, and upper spine, said Ju Wong, director of the Yuhua Women's University Seoul Hospital. Ju said the man, whose name was not released, told doctors he woke up to find himself rescued. Details on the other survivor were not immediately available. The passengers were predominantly South Korean and included 2 people from Thailand. Officials identified 88 of them in the hours after the crash, the fire agency said. Thailand's Prime Minister, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, expressed condolences to the families of those aboard the plane in a post on X. Paetongtarn said she ordered the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to provide assistance. Boon Choi Duong Mane, the father of a Thai passenger, told the Associated Press that his daughter, Jongluk, had been working in a factory in South Korea for several years and returned to Thailand to visit her family. I never thought that this would be the last time we would see each other forever, he said. Karati Kijmanawat, the director of Thailand's airports, confirmed in a statement that Jeju Air Flight 7C-2216 departed from Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport with no reports of anything abnormal aboard the aircraft or on the runway. Jeju Air, in a statement, expressed its deep apology over the crash and said it will do its utmost to manage the aftermath of the accident. In a televised news conference, the company's president, Kim Lee-bae, bowed deeply with other senior company officials as he apologized to bereaved families and said he feels full responsibility for the crash. He said the company had not identified any mechanical problems with the aircraft following regular checkups and that he would wait for the results of government investigations. Family members wailed as officials announced the names of some victims at a lounge in the Muan Airport. Boeing said in a statement on X that it was in contact with Jeju Air and was ready to support the company in dealing with the crash. The crash happened as South Korea is embroiled in a political crisis, triggered by President Yoon Suk Yeol's stunning imposition of martial law and ensuing impeachment. South Korean lawmakers on Friday impeached acting President Han Duck-soo and suspended his duties, leading Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok to take over. Choi, who traveled to the site in Muan, called for officials to use all available resources to identify the dead as soon as possible. The government declared Muan a special disaster zone and designated a week-long national mourning period. Yoon's office said his chief secretary, Chung Jin-suk, presided over an emergency meeting between senior presidential staff to discuss the crash and reported the details to Choi. Yoon expressed condolences to the victims in a Facebook post. In Rome's St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis said he joined in prayer for the survivors and the dead. U.S. President Joe Biden said the United States was ready to offer any necessary assistance. The Muan crash is one of the deadliest disasters in South Korea's aviation history. The last time South Korea suffered a large-scale air disaster was in 1997, when a Korean Airlines plane crashed in Guam, killing 228 people on board. In 2013, an Asiana Airlines plane crash-landed in San Francisco, killing 3 and injuring about 200 Sunday. This accident was also one of the worst landing disasters since a July 2007 crash that killed all 187 people on board and 12 others on the ground when an Airbus A320 slid off a slick airstrip in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and hit a nearby building, according to data compiled by the Flight Safety Foundation, a nonprofit group aimed at improving air safety. In 2010, 158 people died when an Air India Express aircraft overshot a runway in Mangalore, India, and plummeted into a gorge before erupting into flames, according to the Safety Foundation.